Welcome, dear viewers, to our new episode of Visite today. And thank you again for your really interesting letters. I enjoy them so much, and I always look forward to this appointment every Sunday evening to give you answers to your questions. My colleague, Julianne Sasha, once said so nicely, "Please don't believe everything I tell you, but please don't believe everything others tell you either. And may this Visite episode help you to give you more knowledge for everything you do, for everything you decide. Because ultimately, everyone has their own experience. Everyone has their own level of knowledge. And as a layperson like you are not as involved with these things, so it is nice if you can build on a lot of experience of others. And we doctors, unfortunately, we are in a situation today that we were trained very specifically. That means our decision, which we make personally for a patient, is often detached from the whole. So we must be able to work together in the future so that we stop therapy based only on symptomatic or disease-specific guidelines, but that we always have the big picture in mind, because it is about people. And I would like to get to today's topic that a young woman wrote to me, Denise, who at 40 years of age is already wondering, what can I do when I go through menopause? What can I do to sustain my life energy? And of course, you orientate yourself and also listen to older women. How did they experience this phase in life? And that is very different. But life energy, which should be sustained to the end, and I always like the sentence healthy into the box, I have to keep awake for myself again and again. And a life energy that my body can also produce 24 hours, I have to try to provide him with that too. That means that this life energy is, of course, fed by joy from what fulfills me in my life, which tasks I perform with love, in which harmony I am embedded. Life energy can be preserved when I have a healthy sleep-wake cycle, if I don't turn night into day, because my body can complete the tasks that it has to do at night in this valuable regeneration time. We now know, for example, that the hormone melatonin is produced in the epiphysis, but also has intention tasks in the intestine in tumour prevention, in rhythmizing the sleep-wake rhythm. Melatonin detoxifies our brains at night, and it is one of the most powerful antioxidants. We'll definitely learn a lot more about this hormone in the next few years, but if we only keep producing a little of it, we have to know that our body is then unable to carry out all of these processes with 100% care for us. This means that the intestinal health is incredibly important. When menstruation stops, when we approach menopause, and it is crucial how my overall detoxification is regulated. How many women come every day and say, I find it difficult to go to the bathroom. I always have to take something. I have a bowel movement every 2 or 3 days. If the period fails, an important detox valve is no longer there for us. And the body, nature pushes all its strength into youth, into reproduction, into the woman's task of giving birth to new life. But regeneration that should be preserved, that must also be cared for. And you are doing well, Denise, that you start thinking about these things so early. Because the body doesn't want to be stressed tomorrow in a time when it may notice how little it can bear the burden here now. But it always wants to be guided by us. And the intestines in particular are the organ with the most essential immune performance on its mucous membranes. And a bowel movement must be performed without ifs or buts, once or twice a day. And if it is not the case, then you must not give up trying to investigate these causes of why it is weak in this regard and has become weak. These are the tasks that take place intracellularly. So the new cell regeneration over and over again to allow the new DNA or RNA regeneration. That means that you keep a hormone metabolism in a balance too. But of course, when I get insanely stressed, when I face a big conflict, when I am no longer happy, as a person, when I look at situations in life or even events in life and threaten to break, that creates an incredible amount of stress in me. But phases of stress should not be permanent for us humans. A problem is not a problem. Every problem is a challenge to me to clear it up in life. Years ago, I read a wonderful book by Gila Van Dalen, Mother Earth, Carry Me. That impressed me very much at the time, because with every challenge, and sometimes I thought, oh my God, I couldn't take that at all. I couldn't accept it at all. She took it. She accepted it. But what came after that was far worse. And she coped with it with this view, with this acceptance and with this power. And she has developed into an incredibly strong and always life-affirming woman. A wonderful book. That means whenever we get into phases of stress, our body has to adapt to this stress. The body cannot decide now. Is it a stress from evolution that is a real serious threat now? It has to get mobile in order to run away from this threat, or to prepare itself for whatever process. No, the body is focused, first of all, to produce enough stress hormones that now also put the whole body under stress. Don't forget this, because these stress hormones are produced by the adrenal gland. And that's the DHEA. That's the first thing sacrificed in stress. But if my stress continues, and if I know that after the age of 40, the body no longer invests massively in DHEA production, that is what I meant, that it actually leaves the reproductive power to the youth. Then the DHEA changes purely physiologically after 40. Incidentally, also progesterone. But if I get into a stress cascade now in my life, because I'm unhappy, because I don't get from my partner what I expect and keep getting disappointed, and we don't manage to grow together, that together we appreciate, love, and carry each other in our own way, then a stress cycle begins that actually goes in one direction, when DHEA fails, so do testosterone and estrogen and progesterone. And these real female hormones, which of course are also the same hormones for men, only in a different balance, then of course it becomes even more difficult with the onset of menopause, because the body must now adjust to a new level. And it also needs support when menstruation slowly ceases, due to the, I don't want to say deficiency in hormones, especially progesterone, but due to the low level of progesterone, and that is what nature intended. We can no longer be there for our children for 30 years. If we only have children when we are 55 or 60, that's all right. But then this deficiency, for example, only in progesterone, would mean 2% of the bone mass can no longer be adequately formed, because progesterone has a great effect on the task of osteoblasts, constructive and osteoclast, degradative bone cells. It is also the antagonist to estradiol, so the antagonist of estrogens. It is also important that we can always create a balance of everything. We can only do this alone, so it models this relationship between these two opponents. The starting substance is progesterone for cortisol, but I now sacrifice a lot of progesterone or DHEA first through a stressful situation, and then cannot keep up with my production of estradiol, testosterone, also cortisone. Then over time, an adrenal insufficiency becomes apparent. Nowadays, we very quickly classify an adrenal insufficiency as a burnout. But it's more than burnout, it's a triad. It's a stress intolerance. The little is simply too much for me. It is a chronic silent inflammation that the body can no longer regulate. We lack cortisol here. You know, in the event of inflammation, we medically give prednisolone quickly. That is what we may be missing. And the other is this exhaustion, which is also can manifest itself towards an exhaustion depression. This is important to understand, Denise, that all of these things which also need clarification from ourselves and experience clarification, so that tomorrow we do not suck our bodies incredibly dry, so that we don't massively waste its valuable reserves, and so that we are aware of whether we are investing in life, in strength, in the future, or whether we are investing in the stress now. And especially the time today is so incredibly fear-filled, stress-filled. And there are incredibly big problems and challenges for us humans. And it is often not so easy to accept them. And to come to terms with these things personally, and to find solutions for myself, and sometimes what I make of and how I deal with it is crucial for something, how strongly or how less strongly it simply pulls the rug from under me in life. The estrogen consists of 3 estrogens. One is the estradiol, then it's the estrone. We need the estrone, for example, for construction and degradation of our bones. This is what is known as storage estrogen, which we actually usually do not measure every time, even though we actually should. And it's the estriol, and you know that. It regulates the fat cells, it regulates the mucous membranes too. Women who notice very dry mucous membranes simply have an estrone deficiency, which is often linked to the fact that urinary tract infections at this stage of menopause often come to fruition. These are all valuable things. Very valuable things to consider when entering a phase where quietly this hormone upheaval is occurring naturally. Just becoming mentally unbalanced, for which estrogen is responsible, but also to experience joint pain, because perhaps the body was subject to a very high toxic exposure in advance, and the liver has compensated unbelievably in this regard. The connective tissue, so the intracellular space, had to compensate for what we may have suffered over the years. From irregular digestion, perhaps drinking too little, maybe too little selenium. Selenium is a valuable trace element that is responsible for detoxification. These are all things that when menstruation is gone, remain reality as well. But by menstruating, you've had a detox valve every month. Please don't underestimate that. We classify every fibroid as a landfill. And any fibroid is something that the body simply regulates or adapts to bunker. The body doesn't do anything that doesn't make sense. And it has a higher physical intelligence for itself, which we may sometimes feel as, it doesn't serve me enough, it could be better. Why do I have to get up in the morning and have this headache? There are overloads. It's just too much for it. It can no longer regulate these things for us. And it's very important to also think about the detoxification organs. Liver, metabolism, kidneys, the lymphatic system, to relieve them. To clear detoxification pathways, open them. Perform liver detoxification. And also ensure that your detoxification capacities are in balance. That it is finally being clarified that amalgam has no business in the mouth. And please, before going into menopause, before a pregnancy, you have to get rid of metals from your mouth, and then really continuously and strictly perform a detox on this level. There are a lot of women, and when I say that now, then I do that with my 61 years. They go through this phase in life with incredible strength and joy. And there is something so infinitely beautiful about this change. And I can only say to all women who go into this phase that you can do a lot of little things to prepare wonderfully for this phase in life. And if you are not committed to yourself, if you are not already doing a certain activity for yourself, because of course the body adapts to you, that means also an activity in the sense of a sport. Be it yoga or swimming or horse riding or practicing an athletic hobby, means letting hormones become active. Of course, a healthy sex life is also part of it. of course, as I said, it involves a healthy digestion. These are actually also valuable and beautiful things that afterwards, when you get into a phase where the body tries to settle down to a low level, actually cause only a few or hardly any problems. That's why I thought it was very nice that you were asking me this question, because, of course, if you understand life at all and also understand age, you have to know that age has nothing to do with getting old in any case. In the sense of getting old, I mean this frailty that some have in mind is no longer being able to do something. It's nice that a physiological state is allowed to develop step by step, but the oldest inhabitant of this world was 122 years old. And she always said you get old without getting old. That means if it may not be quite right, but the speed, that's what I wanted to say. The speed is what you can determine. You can't run away from anything, but you can preserve the beautiful and the conscious. You can preserve the curiosity. And you asked me in your email, maybe you can think of a good book. I have to say, how you, for example, take power away from time, that you really try to live life in its entirety. How you can really strengthen your self-healing powers. And I couldn't understand before what self-healing powers are. Today I know it's respect and esteem before nature and life of the autonomous self-regulation of my body. Because we doctors, we cannot intervene in any way, and neither should we, because the body knows exactly where it is investing its strength. What does it have to regulate? What does it have to absorb less of now? Because it has coordinated these small metabolic processes and immune processes all alone in a high absolute precision and order for us. And the more unencumbered it remains, the more you can trust that it's doing that. In this book, she presents the optimal diet for this time too. As we prepare for a menopausal cycle, and then go through these years as well, how we can make leisure time fulfilling, how we stay curious, maybe develop spirituality as well. Spirituality has nothing to do with any phantasm. Spirituality means opening up to a worldview that is much larger and deeper than what I see and what I may not be able to understand sometimes, but which suddenly opens up to me in a great perception. And of all the vitality and joy I can preserve. And the book, titled by Christiane Northrup, who is an American writer but also a colleague, a doctor, gynecologist, entertainer, and she has compiled her knowledge in incredible lectures and books. This book is called Goddesses Never Age. And with this in mind, I wish you all a wonderful Sunday evening. Denise, I thank you from the bottom of my heart for your email, and I am already looking forward to the coming Sunday. Good evening and goodbye.